Over the summer, I expect a lot of changes to happen at West Ham, and one major change is going to be happening behind the scenes. It's been widely reported that the club is looking to appoint a director of football for the first time since 2018, and this will see a definite reformation to the backroom staff. It also casts shadows over the futures of Rob Newman and David Moyes' roles at this football club. Director of football would be responsible for overseeing the transfers and would report directly to the board. They would report to the owner about transfers and work tightly with the ownership of the club rather than the manager. This is one step higher up from what Rob Newman currently does. Remember, Rob Newman is the head of recruitment at the club. And it doesn't seem to affect Mark Noble's role as a sporting director. Noble will have an influence in the transfers and the signings and the running of the club, but he's not going to be the person who signs the documentation, nor will he be the one to give the green light for transfers to go ahead. It means that David Sullivan is going to have someone to work with, possibly. Up until this point, Sullivan's had a bit of a back role in which he's allowed Rob Newman to take over with the transfers. To the West Ham fans on the outside, it was delightful summer last summer, spending over 180 million on players and breaking the transfer record. It was a team full of European talents, younger players, and players who had winning mentalities behind them. It didn't seem to work at first, and the squad lacked a hell of a lot of cohesion and chemistry, and that casted doubts over whether the money had been spent wisely. We went through this same phase with Manuel Pellegrini and Mario Husilos. Husilos was the director of football at the club and had full running of the transfers. He spent 100 million in the first summer, broke the transfer record twice, and only two other players seem to actually make the cut. In fact, two of them are still with the club right now, which is the duo of Fornals and Fabianski. Those are the only two signed during the Pellegrini era. I don't know if there's anyone else, actually. I can't think off the top of my head. Moyes and Newman would lose a lot of responsibility for arrivals. The board and the director of football would take over on transfers. It doesn't mean to say that we get a Sullivan special where he uses Will Solhaus's client and just does everything on the cheap. He'd actually have a reliable person to recommend signings and someone who has a good scouting mechanism. We've built a scouting network under Moyes. We still have scouts that are looking at players, believe it or not, and they report back to Newman. If this goes ahead, Newman will be probably out the door, and this means David Moyes could be out the door as well. The board may not trust him in signing players anymore. And let's be honest, sometimes it's never been a good thing. Don't forget, Moyes wanted Jesse Lingard all that time and the board wouldn't budge on it, and then Lingard rejected us. It turned out to pay off. There's a high possibility that Moyes will end up losing his job at the moment. But the club's not impressed with spending over 200 million. And the fact these changes are wanted makes things quite interesting. If you want my personal opinion, appointing the director of football is a good thing for every club. I know that Moyes' position's very uncertain right now. However, there has been a report from Hugh Southern on Claret and Hugh to give more details about this. Quote, he said, West Ham are ready to appoint a director of football this summer rather than rely on a head of recruitment. Moyes ensured that he would remain in charge of transfer dealings when he appointed Rob Newman as head of recruitment. The view inside the club is that a proper director of football is required to whom the manager is accountable, as is the case at other Premier League clubs. It means Moyes is out, if you ask me. It really does. And it casts a lot of doubt over his future, but change is imminent. We cannot deny that change is going to be happening within the next few weeks. The season ends very soon. And it's going to be an interesting summer again. We're going to have to rebuild again, but with the director of football, it takes everything in a new path. We might not see players at necessarily Newman's calibre. We might see another person's talent ID. It's exciting, but it's nerve-wracking at the same time. And what happens over the next few weeks will determine the path we take over the summer. But you cannot deny one thing for sure. Things are going to be a hell of a lot different going forward from now on. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to sub for more content. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you all soon.